This is Mount Everest. It's 8,848 meters tall, and it's the highest mountain in the world. Now, this incredible photo was taken, the photo you just saw was taken by Ralph Dujmovitz last May in 2012. What you're looking at is a queue of 200 climbers making their way towards the summit of Everest on the very same day. But the thing is, if you travel 400 kilometers north into China, you come to a range called the Nyan Cantagla East Range. In contrast to Everest, which was one mountain and 200 climbers, here we have 200 mountains and not a single climber. And not only that, but all but 4 of these mountains have never seen a single ascent. Everest might be famous and tall, but for me, it's these vast ranges of unclimbed and unexplored peaks that is the real draw. So that's exactly where I try to go. Now, last summer, I found myself on an expedition we put together to the Altai Mountains in Russia. They are located here on the southern Russian border, close to Mongolia, China, and Kazakhstan. Now, over the course of 2 weeks, we set up a base camp in a valley and climbed 5 British first ascents, including 2 probable world-first new routes. Now, whilst out there as well, friends back home could log on to our website and track our progress in near real time. We did all this. We did it knowing no Russian, with no modern maps or guidebooks, no real knowledge of the base camp valley we were going to until we got there, and with no major corporate or charitable sponsorship of any sort. Let me show you how we did it. So in 2005, Google launched Google Earth. And when you think of mapping in Google, you might think of Google Street View, and images taken by these vehicles here. Or maybe you think of printing off directions to a TEDx conference in Birmingham. But really, the incredible power of this free piece of software is because it combines 2 very simple sets of data. Firstly, you've got a set of satellite imagery, just photographs taken directly overhead above the Earth's surface. And secondly, you've got the relief model, or what we call a digital elevation model. This you can think of as simply a set of data that says the height above sea level of every point on the Earth's surface to maybe the nearest 10 or 20 meters or so. So let's have a look at somewhere. The place I'm going to show you is this lower red pin here, which is on the Kyrgyzstan-Chinese border. And if we zoom in a little, this is a range of mountains and glaciers called the Jangat Valley. And right down this western end here is a peak called Peak Howard Bury. Now, it was named by the first 2 climbers to climb it back in 2010. And they climbed a route called Horseman's Horror, which looks like this, wiggling its way up to the summit. Now, what I'd like you to do is to compare this image to a similar angle taken from Google Earth, which looks like this. Now, if we put the 2 side by side, you can see there's a remarkable similarity between the 2. But remember, no one from Google, in fact, no one ever in the world has probably ever visited this mountain and seen it from this angle before. This image on the right is simply a satellite photo stretched down over the 3D relief model underneath it. So once I got my head around the incredible power of this pretty simple concept, I thought I'd better find some mountains of my own to climb. And here's one. Now, this is also in Kyrgyzstan, and I'm going out to climb it this summer. It's 5,025 meters tall. It's unclimbed, it has no name, and according to Google Earth, it doesn't even exist. And I'll show you what I mean. So in the middle of this picture, you can see a ridgeline and the shadow cast by the sun from the top right of the picture down to the bottom left. What I'm going to do is slowly pan the image down so you can look at this same view in 3D. And what you'll start to see is that where you'd expect this mountain to be, there isn't one. Okay? It's as if a huge scoop has been taken out of the ground where I'm looking for this enormous mountain. Of course, as with any scientific endeavor, the problem with relying on just one data set is you've got no way of telling whether glaring errors in the data are really errors or not. The problem we have is that when your data set is a map of the entire world, you're kind of struggling to find other sources to compare it to. Except, this. Now, this is part of a space satellite, and it belonged to the Soviet Union. Now, the Soviet Union are incredibly exciting for mountaineers, because between 1940 and the end of the Cold War, they put together probably the most comprehensive set of maps of Eurasia and Africa ever created. Now, this is a photo reconnaissance satellite called the Zenit, and the Soviet Union launched over 500 of these And they use the data that they collected from these and other sources to put together these maps. Now, if you've never seen a Russian language map of the town centre of Birmingham before, here's your chance. Now, these maps were lost and abandoned and then found in the 1990s in Latvia, or so the story goes. But importantly, right now, huge numbers of them are available for free online for anyone to browse and download. So if we go back to the mountain range in Kyrgyzstan, this is the same mountain range from a different angle. What you, I, or anyone now has the power to do is to take this modern satellite imagery of anywhere in the world and compare it to a 40-year-old Soviet map of anywhere in the world, and in effect use the information in one to help overcome inaccuracies in the other. The idea that someone like myself 10 years ago would have had the ability to do this is pretty unthinkable. We've got two incredible sets of data, and we can cherry-pick the best bits we need and use them to our advantage. Now, this is all very well as far as the planning of expeditions goes, but the whole point of mountaineering is to spend time in the mountains, where there is no Google Earth or computers, quite refreshingly. This is more what it's like. This is me climbing in Scotland, getting battered by some high winds and spindrift in a classic Scottish winter storm. Now, the mountains in Scotland barely reach above 1,300 metres. Travel abroad, and the risks and dangers significantly increase with the effects of high altitude. There's a lot of things you wouldn't want to do in these conditions, tweeting being one of them. But as you're all probably showing very well today, Twitter is a brilliant tool for keeping people updated on what's going on at this point in time. Now, despite the first 3G call being made from the summit of Everest 2 years ago, I'm actually really pleased to report that almost every other mountain in the world still has no regular phone signal whatsoever. So what can we do? Well, the very extreme approach was taken by these guys here. This is Corey Richards, and along with a very experienced climber, Renan Ozturk, in January 2010, they set out to the Himalayas, to the Everest region of Nepal, to climb a difficult new route up a mountain called Tawashe. Now, they also took with them digital SLR cameras, lenses, dollies, IMAX, and solar panels. They shot, edited, and transmitted a video of their expedition live from the side of the rock face. This photo is taken at 5,000 meters altitude. This is Corey Richards struggling to upload to Vimeo the latest installment of his video via a satellite modem, which is just ridiculous, really. So, a slightly different example. This mountain in the distance is Nanda Parbat. It's one of only 14 8,000-meter mountains in the world. Last year, 2 British alpinists, who you might just be able to see on the right of this image, completed the first ever traverse of this incredible 10 to 13-kilometer ridge leading to the summit. Now, this was a monstrous undertaking that required huge levels of skill and commitment, and many climbers have previously been defeated by this. They set off with 8 days of food, which they thought might stretch to 10. On day 15, they reached the summit, and on the 18th day, they got back down to base camp. What's also incredible is that throughout this whole journey, they were able to keep everyone updated with their progress in near real time for no more effort than just pushing a button. They carried with them a small electronic satellite messenger, which when pushed would send their location straight back to the web. People like myself could log onto the website as they climbed and follow where they were in almost real time. Now, my own climbing abilities pale into insignificance compared to these guys, but it's possible for anyone to do this technical setup, as we did in Russia, for almost zero cost. Now, people forget, but it's actually possible to tweet via an SMS text message. We took to Russia a satellite phone. From the satellite phone, you can text to Twitter. If you write your latitude and longitude of your location into the text, and then you embed Google Maps in your website, as we did on here, then Google Maps can plot the course of your tweets across the mountains as you go. But it hasn't always been this easy. Last week was the 60th anniversary of the first ever ascent of Mount Everest. Back in 1953, James Morris was a correspondent with The Times who was traveling with the expedition. And in May of that year, to send messages back to the UK, he would send them via runner to the nearby town of Kathmandu to be cabled on to the UK. Now, the message he sent, confirming the first ever ascent of the world's highest mountain, was in code to avoid interception and gaining the scoop. But it read as follows: snow conditions bad, advanced base abandoned, awaiting improvement, all well. Translation being, Everest climbed, Edmund Hillary summited, Tenzing Norgay summited, nobody killed or injured. The message arrived in the UK the next day in time for the Queen's coronation and was printed in the press. In the 60 years Since that message, the dangers and risks of traveling to these remote locations and climbing at high altitude have barely changed. But thanks to some incredible free data sets and tools, people like myself have the confidence to head out on expeditions like this, knowing that we know where we're going, we can tell you when we get there, and we should be coming back okay. Thank you.